barefoot, jeans, no shirt on, blood down the front, and peeing off the top of the van. This is a big cargo van.
Yeah.
Onto one of the other cars, and I went up to Aaron and said, "Hey, I think we ought to go."
Yeah.
And Aaron said, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." So we all got in the van and got out of there, and I started driving. I don't know if you know where this Nussbaum House Road is.
I looked at it on a map. I haven't gone down.
It's
there.
out in the sticks,
Yeah.
and I didn't even make it back to town. And Aaron said, "Hey, I don't think you should be driving." And I said, "You know what? I think you're right." And I gave him the keys, and I went in the back and went to sleep. And I don't even remember coming in to town, really.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I get up, and the phone's ringing, and it's my boss in Ocean Shores, and he's like saying, "Hey man, are you guys done with the van? I could really use it this weekend. Maybe, would you mind bringing it back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay," just raging headache. Hang up, go out, where's the van? It's not there. So I go over to Kurt and Tracy's place at 1000.5 2nd Street or whatever, and there's no van there. And so I beat on the door. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And Tracy sticks her head out and goes, "Oh, didn't the police come over and get you?" And I said, "What?" And she says, "Oh yeah, so this was about, 2 hours ago, I guess. They should have come and got you." "What are you talking about?" "Well, apparently when Aaron parked it to unload, he blocked the neighbor's driveway.
Oh no.
They were supposed to come get you." Okay, so we go find Aaron. He doesn't have the keys. So I get Kurt. I said, "You are coming with me, and we are going to go get this." And so we go to AA Auto Wrecking, pull in there, and the guy's just closing the gate. It's Sunday. And anyway, I go in there. I got my checkbook out. I'm like, "Just tell me what I owe you, because I have to have this van."
Sure.
And so anyway, we get the van, and I'm really disgusted with Kurt because he's just like, "Oh yeah, he lives over there somewhere," to whoever these police officer was that came and said, "You got to move this van."
Yeah.
And he did.
Oh.
And
they didn't have a phone in the house, right?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a phone either.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like a block away, not even.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, I wasn't happy. And then we stopped at, what was that? There used to be like where that Thai restaurant is, coming back from,
on the south side.
yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it used to be called like, not the Lighthouse, but something. It was, anyway, everything was open 24/7.
Okay.
And the bar was open. You could go in there at 7 in the morning and get liquor if you wanted. Well, anyway, we went in there and had breakfast, and I was thoroughly disgusted with them. And so that was the more being all hung over like that, and then almost losing my boss's van, and I lied to him about the whole thing anyway. And that wasn't the first time or the last time.
Oh man.
And but it was, I began to start to understand where these individuals' integrity was, and that it wasn't that they were, trustworthy and looking out for me.
Yeah.
And that played into why I made decisions such as I did later on in life.
Yeah. And ultimately step away from
Yeah.
being on that
Yeah.
path. Yeah.
And I don't know if you read the part in Charles' book where we had the conversation about, what are your plans when you become 30? And that conversation actually happened. That was when Kurt had received or was sending a letter to Jesse, and where he was in boot camp somewhere or something, and I said, "Well, it's interesting. You need to think about whatever you're going to do when you become 30, because that was the time where you would be grown up." And Kurt looked at me and he says, "I'll never be 30." And that was another one of those places where I was just like really disgusted.
Yeah.
And we argued pretty aggressively about that, you know, that kind of fatalistic attitude.
That mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. I have some questions that I made notes on.
Perfect.
But just before I go to that, let me ask, because it sounds like you've probably read quite a bit about, you know, what's been written over the years about Nirvana, about, you know, Kurt. In your mind, when you think about everything that you've read, what is it that people get wrong about Nirvana or Kurt? I can't imagine it's all 100% accurate. It seems like there's a lot of information that's contradictory and whatnot.
You know, I don't know about that. I mean, there's certainly a tremendous desire to get it right. And I applaud that. You know, I think people that there's, you know, I'm sure you're well aware of this this website that tries to, like, every single show they ever played on the date and
Live Nirvana
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that.
And I know those people, and they've interacted with me over the years, and we've had lengthy discussions about things, you know, so for the most part, I don't, you know, the one thing that I think has, the Zalasko Park show, I think, is not ever have happened.
Yeah.
And I don't feel confident about the poorhouse either. Everybody's got their own, but the other side of it is I wasn't there, and I often wasn't there, and so.
That's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because I mean, looking back on my life when I was, you know, a teenager or young adult, even the people closest to me, even my best friend, and we hung out while we were in the band together, he didn't know where I was every day, every night, what I was doing.
Right.
There's huge chunks, probably as close and tight as we were, that he would have no clue. A lot of people talk about, you know, and maybe this is a mythology that Kurt was trying to build about his homeless period in his life. And, you know, a lot of people will say there's no way you could sleep under the Yonge Street Bridge, you know, because of the tide. And I've been under there all different times of year, and, you know, up at the upper part, you know, it's dry enough, you know. And so, you know, some people have said, yeah, he never slept there. How do you know, really? Because you were never, I mean, you're not around someone 100% of the time.
Right.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, and you bring up a really good point, Chuck. Is that one of the things about Kurt is he most likely spent a lot of time alone, disproportionate to most people's experience. You know, because he didn't have parents in his life engaging with him.
yeah.
His sister, you know, Kim, was the focus of Wendy's attention most of the time, you know, such as it was. You know, and he wasn't successful at school. He wasn't successful at athletics. He was, you know, he tried in Montesano, but that was when Don and Wendy were still, you know, there might have been a blink of recovery, but, and I don't even know this boyfriend that Wendy, when I went to Wendy's house there, and then one or two times that I went there with Kurt to pick up laundry or something, and you know, he was adamant about not being there when and if this gentleman,
The boyfriend.
might arrive, and how it might affect his mother's relationship with him, and how she apparently chose that over him. And so he didn't want to cause problems, but it bothered him tremendously. And so it's these kinds of things. When I, as a 58-year-old, you look back and go, oh my gosh, you know, what I have done, how could I have not known where my son was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And we're not talking like hundreds of miles.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking hundreds of feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yep. There's definitely a big discrepancy in parenting among different families. You know.
Oh, survival. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is what gave Kurt so much enthusiasm about feminism.
Mm-hmm.
Is that situation that he saw his mother experience, that powerlessness, that generational trauma
Mm-hmm.
and grief. I mean, Shelley we all had similar families. We all were experiencing exactly what Kurt wrote about
Mm-hmm.
in all of his songs.
Yeah.
That's why we all got along so well.
Yeah.
It's because every single one of our families were broken,
Mm-hmm.
shattered. So when we talked about superficial things, but we had a common emotional bond.
Yeah.
We were trauma bonding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That was exactly what I was thinking
Mhm.
before you mentioned that. Is, yeah, you have that shared trauma, you know.
Mhm.
So, and probably the reason, you know, why we talked earlier about how these experiences found their way into his lyrics in one way or another. Maybe it's there in the power of emotion or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's surprising to me that people find it surprising that Nirvana continues to generate new fans. You know, I see people all the time that are 12, 13, 14 years old that have really gotten into this music. It's not just a one generation thing. It's not just Generation X. It just continues and continues because of, I think, the power of the lyrics and the emotion. It's so raw. You know, it's this teen angst and frustration, and it just really seems to grab people, and it just doesn't seem to have an end. It seems like it just keeps on going.
It is surprising to me as well, and you know, I'm halfway through the Taylor Swift video concert on Netflix or whatever it is, you know, and I had that same thought. I don't understand. I mean, Taylor Swift is extremely popular
Mm-hmm.
right now with the very crowd that made Nirvana what it was. You know, that 13, 14, 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in 1990, 91, something like that, I was a assistant youth group advisor here in Montesano at the Montesano United Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to a thing called Convocation, youth convocation in Yakima.
Mm-hmm.
And we were chaperones there, and they had a dance night, a Saturday night, end of the weekend. We were going to get up, have a prayer, have breakfast, blowout, Saturday night. And so we had a shift, all the adults, 25-year-old, 26-year-old adult that I was there. And my wife and I were there, and the other youth group advisor, and we're just sitting on the sidelines watching these teenagers mull around on this, listening to songs, and they're dancing and doing all this, and then Smells Like Teen Spirit came on, and that crowd exploded. Like, I mean, I get chills thinking about it today.
Wow.
And I looked at that and went, oh my God. And they were dancing and participating before, but they exploded. And I thought, this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still this way today. That song.
Yeah.
Just, and a bunch of other songs too, you know, that just have that that impact.
Sure.
You know, there's I don't know what it is, but I don't understand Taylor Swift either.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Join the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, and like I say, it never fails to amaze me that just all the new people that are discovering Nirvana and that take the time to come all the way. You know, I see people all the time that you know, and people contact us and say, I'm going to be in Aberdeen. I'm coming from all around the world. You know, we have people that
I've had them show up at my house. I totally get it.
Oh, wow.
Long before you guys ever even started all this.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. People, you know,
Florence,
I've been
Italy.
saying, oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have people coming soon from Africa, you know, and they save and they save and they save, and they're not going to Paris or
No.
London. They're coming to Aberdeen,
Right.
and it just kind of blows you away. It's really something else.
I think it's, you know, I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing this. I don't know if you're participating with Russ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this thing, I'm just very happy
Mm-hmm.
that it's happening and that somebody's taking interest in it, because you know, if you don't participate in it, it'll just have a life of its own, and then even without the benefit
Mm-hmm.
of the harbor could ever achieve, and the harbor needs some help,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that there's really I don't know that there should be, but it's amazing that there is controversy, you know, decades later, with a lot of the folks that are our age and grew up around, you know, Kurt and what was happening. And to this day, I run into people. There was a guy that was working on a house, a couple of houses down, and I ended up having a conversation with him, and it goes something like, oh yeah, I knew Kurt in high school, and you know, he destroyed heavy metal, and you know, and so we don't like what they were doing. And I'm like, but did they really?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You know, you know.
No.
But if it's still holding a grudge,
Yeah.
all of these decades later, and I'm like, I kind of have a hard time wrapping my head around, you know, can't you embrace what an amazing thing was that someone found their way to this level of success that came from, you know, where you grew up. But yeah, it's interesting. It really is.
A lot of humans being crappy humans still, you know, and that's I wish we'd get over it,
Oh, yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
get out of the way of our ego,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. That's the challenge, right?
This weekend at church, the sermon was one of the readings was a particular passage from Jeremiah, and it was a part where it said, you know, this bit about the Ten Commandments in the Old Testament, we're done. That's not going to work. We just need to simplify things to just like, you know, two things: love a higher power and love each other.
Mm.
The message that later came when Jesus was around, you know. And so they asked her, how can we do that? The Ten Commandments, you know. Yeah, but it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could. It was too complicated,
Mm.
you know. And we can't figure out how to just love a higher power, get out from behind your ego, and love each other. We can't even figure that one out.
Right. What was it that Bill and Ted said?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
be good to each other, or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's you distill it down to the most.
It's
basic thing.
still overwhelming to, you know, resource management. We're all fighting, competing for resources, you know.
Right.
You know, that-
Yeah.
And that's a good conversation to continue.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
how do we live more peacefully
Yeah.
and learn to love each other?
Just think, you know, and so since I've arrived on the harbor,
Okay.
I'm not from here. I moved here from California.
Where?
And I was in Northern California. I was in a little town called Rockland,
Oh.
South Placer County, closest to Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
And so,
My wife's from California.
Oh, okay.
That's why I asked.
What part of California?
But she grew up in the East Bay in
East Bay.
Castro Valley.
Okay, yeah, great. It's amazing how many people have arrived here from that part of California, from the Bay Area, and well, that part in general. But so since arriving, I've tried to plug into different nonprofits and whatnot, get involved. You know, I've gotten involved with the Downtown Avenue Association, working with Will. You know, I have a lot of history, and so I started out with doing the history, the weekly history walks with Phil Slap. I don't know if you know him. He at one point started doing the Nirvana. There was so much interest in Nirvana that we started doing kind of a Nirvana tour thing. Phil is 80 years old. It was not kind of his thing, and so he didn't necessarily feel comfortable talking about it. For me, you know, I look back on my life and I think about all the music I've listened to, all the bands, and you know, there's only one band that I can tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing when I heard that band, and it's Nirvana. It was that consequential of a moment. Now, it didn't turn me into a huge Nirvana fan at the time. Yeah, I really dug the music, but it was that consequential. I can't really remember, you know, all the music I've listened to. It's weird that I would end up here, you know, and I didn't come here because of Nirvana.
Right.
But I've kind of now found my way into, we need somebody that, you know, can talk to people that are coming to town about Nirvana. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, and so there's been kind of a steep learning curve of trying to wrap my head around everything that was going on. But kind of how I got involved in doing that. But yeah, so the Downtown Aberdeen Association now with the Make Music Aberdeen, and they're the ones that are doing World Music Day. I don't know if you made it to that last year.
No, I have a tendency to avoid those kinds of things.
Okay. We are doing, if you change your mind, this summer, June 21st, I think it's on the solstice, we'll do it again. It's basically, it's an opportunity for people to come down, be on the street and just do their thing and busk, play whatever music, you know, it doesn't matter if they're playing kazoos or, you know, guitar or whatever. And this year we're going to try to get some of the churches involved so we can have some of their, you know, music happening too. At the end of the day, we have one of the founding members of Heart is going to be here, and we're giving away Gibson Les Paul. Yeah, it's going
Roger Fisher?
I believe it's Roger. They've been pretty tight-lipped about not getting any of that too much information out.
Sure.
And there's a possibility that, you know, maybe there will be a couple other cool people that show up that I think people would love to see. But and then the rest of my time is pretty much thrown into the Friends of the Museum and History.
How's that going?
520. It's a challenge, you know. They don't have a museum,
right?
You know, it
burned down,
burned to the ground. A lot of the artifacts did survive, and so you know, there's been a long process of trying to recatalog everything. It's in a warehouse for now. There is a building that it will go into, which was the old Sears or Salvation Army building on Wishka Street.
Good.
So eventually there will be a museum, you know, back in operation, but it's a slow process to get there. But in the meantime, you know, we try to do kind of mini exhibits inside the office. You know, it rotates out about every 2 months where people come in and learn about a different part of the history. You know, it's...
And what do you know about this? These folks that are working with Will that are they're from out of town. The husband and wife.
Danny and Lee Bacon.
Yeah, was that it? Danny and Lee.
Yeah. They're very nice couple. Very down.
Well, I met them. I just don't know what you know what's going on with the. I mean, a little bit of it reminds me of who's that fellow that came down and apparently owned the DNR Theater for a while. He just passed away recently.
Yanovich?
Yeah, Yanovich.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was a lot of hype around him a few years ago, and his basically doing something similar,
Mhm.
but he was going to run it as a business,
Yeah.
and then come to find out he wasn't paying people,
Mm.
or wasn't
Yeah.
paying permits right, or we just all a bunch of shady stuff
Yeah.
came out about it,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't get involved with that, and
Yeah.
because anyway, I just wondered if people that were working with Will might be a little bit like that, They didn't
Not
seem to
at all.
be, and
Yeah.
they're doing all those things with
Yeah.
that building.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah. I can probably put your mind at ease that I would say not at all.
Mm.
Their heart is they're all in
Mhm.
on trying to make sure that they get it right.
Mm.
They get the story right. They
Mhm.
don't want to really talk about or do things that really aren't accurate as far as the story.
Yeah.
Focusing on the positive part of
Mhm.
the story. So I have quite a bit of faith in what they're doing.
Good.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. The DAA, Downtown Aberdeen Association office, which is Will's associated with, is upstairs
Yeah.
in that sidewalk
Yep.
building.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a positive thing for
Good.
the community once it gets. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
First they're opening up what's called the green room, which
Mhm.
is going to be on the K Street side of the building,
Mhm.
and eventually they'll have like an acoustic lounge, a tribute center,
Yeah.
kind of a virtual museum.
Will gave me the tour.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you've actually been in there downstairs?
Yeah, I've been down there and met them all and,
Oh, fantastic.
and all that. And I can't remember what I was down there doing. Something. Can't
Yeah.
remember. But
interview or something, or
no, it had something to do with dropping something off or picking
Mm.
something up, or I can't remember what. But,
yeah.
Will's married to a classmate of mine, Christy, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
went to school together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Christy's great.
She is
Yeah. Yeah.
an outstanding human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looks out for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
Yeah.
She does. She looks out for many people.
Yeah. She was, I think Will called me up one day. He was apologizing because he'd given my phone number to a fellow that was interested in writing a book or something. And he inadvertently mentioned it to Christy, and she about lost her mind.
Oh no.
She said, "Don't ever do that again. You
Oh.
better call him up."
Yeah. Well, good for Christy.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah. She's a good person. I like Christy a lot. Yeah. So I went through my notes real quick to see, did I miss anything significant?
Okay.
I don't think there was anything in there that was. I mean, I've got questions about trying to piece together the whole thing with Kurt's timeline of what he was doing when, the stories that I've heard over the years. I think there was only one thing we didn't talk about that I had, and these notes are all over the place and incomplete. Probably the best way to describe it. But I know one of the things that on the walking tour, we go by the old YMCA building there. It's close to the Schillinger house.
Yes.
And so I know from talking to Barb that when he was arrested for the trespass, when he was up on the roof of the building in Aberdeen.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name of the
I
business.
can't
that was in
either.
there, but
And
it was.
it's not the morgue.
No. It was a fairly one-story building down close to 101 there. But so she's kind of relayed the story of how he gets arrested, ends up in jail, and they arrest him one night. He doesn't get booked for a whole week, and I think the morning after the arrest, because it was pretty late at night, Barb said that they got a call from Kurt, and I guess they were his one phone call, and he asked if they would come down and